everybody, this is Anne. Welcome back to Painting Fig, and thank you. This is a huge thank you video. We just hit 2,000 subscribers. I am super happy about this. I started this channel originally just as a place to shove my streaming videos from Twitch back in 2018. And I started maybe consistently posting targeted videos somewhere around, 2022, just every once in a while, But this past year, I've been trying to do it a lot more consistently, and then I decided last month, or a couple months ago, I decided I wanted to go for YouTube Partner. So I've been posting, as you may have noticed, about a video a week, around there, in the hopes of hitting that goal. And hitting 2,000 subscribers is a huge step toward that. So thank you so much, everybody. And to celebrate this, I'm going to do just a quick little video. I wanted to talk a little bit about mindset. I talk a lot about mindset on my streams. And mindset when you're learning the hobby, or really learning any hobby, right? But learning miniature painting, we go online, we watch a bunch of videos, maybe we subscribe to a Patreon, or we join somebody's YouTube channel, and we absorb everything like little sponges, but it can also get overwhelming. And it's hard sometimes to figure it out because a lot of people paint very differently, right? We all do it a little bit different. I always tell people this. So you're hearing one thing from one person, and you're hearing another thing from another person, and then your local game store manager tells you something else, and your friends are doing something completely different. It gets a little bit over the top, right? So the first thing I want to talk about is kind of the whole question the premise. Just because somebody is really confident that this way is going to work, it doesn't mean that that way is necessarily going to work for you. It's really important in the hobby to do what you're doing, to run around, listen to everybody, right? But if you start feeling overwhelmed, the answer is really to sit down and start experimenting with what you've heard and see what works for you. Because all these people, they've had their own journey toward getting to be a great miniature painter, or at least a good one hopes, if you're listening to them. Don't listen to your friend who can't even dry brush. But they've all had their own journeys, and their strengths and their challenges and their weak spots and their blind spots are totally different from yours. And so something that they might find success with may not suit you at all. And it's not because you aren't a good painter or that you don't have the potential to be a great painter. It's just that you work a little differently. Either your brain works differently and their whole process is just weird to you and feels wrong. Or, maybe the way that your muscles work, maybe you love wet blending, but they're really regimented in their style, or vice versa. There are definitely things that would attract you to certain mechanical processes in miniature painting more than others. And that's valid. The whole thing, I think we forget sometimes, this whole thing is our own personal journey into doing a cool hobby. It can become about validation, and that's a little dangerous, right? You want to kind of watch that a little bit. By all means, set out to impress your friends. I mean, certainly I did when I started out. So I can't say a whole lot. It can be a good motivator to want to get better and so that your friends see your latest mini and go, wow, that's absolutely valid. Or maybe you can actually enter that painting competition at your local store, or even aim higher than that, right? And even if you don't win, people are like, wow, that model's amazing, right? And that's enough. But when we get in that validation loop, sometimes we're trying a little bit too hard to take somebody else's process and make it our own, when actually we'd be better off just trying a whole bunch of different things and finding the thing that actually felt comfortable and good for us, or the thing that we were really oh, this is a cool technique, I want to play with this more. No matter how certain somebody else is that their technique is the end-all be-all and you must learn two-brush blending in order to be a great painter, or whatever, I pick on two-brush blending because I do it with just one brush, but, the point is, try everything, experiment, and come to your own conclusions about what works for you. And things that work for you now are going to change over time. They're going to change as you develop in your hobby. So, just because you started out with a wet palette and you've been really into the wet palette doesn't mean that if you try a well palette now, you won't get mileage out of it. And vice versa, right? I started with a well palette. I've transitioned over into using a wet palette every once in a while, and I can see where it fits in my style now, whereas before I just hated it. So as time goes on, definitely keep an open mind, but when you're just learning, try a bunch of different stuff, throw it at the wall, see what sticks. So, all right, Anne, that's great and all, but how do I figure out what's going to stick? Like, there's all these things, and I'm like feeling like I'm drowning in all this information because I watch too much YouTube. Me too. So the best thing you can do, in just a general way, is to look kind of at the ways you've had success in other areas of your life or in other hobbies. Like, if you've noticed at work that really, when it comes down to it, you just need to jump into the middle of something to really understand a new process, chances are you're going to have to do that same thing with mini painting. Chances are, like, just kind of sitting there and reading about it or watching about it or whatever, that's not going to really give you any understanding if you're a jump into the middle of it kind of person, right? And neither is kind of just like taking cautious little steps. Like, if you need to just jump in, you need to just jump in. And if that's worked for you in other areas of your life, then go ahead and do it. On the other hand, I'm the opposite. If I jump into the middle and flail around, I'm just going to get frustrated. And I know that from several other areas of my life. So for me, a very regimented, slow process where I learn in little steps, that's the way that I find success. Likewise, let's take another example. Say that in another hobby, let's say you take up running. I mentioned running because I do it. But let's say to succeed at that, you found you really needed a club or a friend or a buddy that really motivated you to like do the thing. So if you had success with that in your other hobby, then chances are you should look for that in mini painting. So either go to your local game store, if they have tables, sit down, start painting, see if you can meet people. If you're not a very social person, get online, kind of, join a Discord. Maybe if you hit it off with one person, you can just go in the Discord voice chat channel and you can sit and each of you can paint where you are, but still chat and have that social experience. Like, there's not a bad way to do this. Obviously, if you have a local paint club, that can also be a great resource, but not all of us have that, and not all of us have the energy to start one if we don't have it. Okay, one final example for you. Let's say that you've noticed that you have to have like a deadline or a goal to get anything done. You're procrastinator extraordinaire. I used to be this. Ask me how I've come up with all of these. So you're a procrastinator and you need something to push yourself. All right, so if that happens in other areas of your life and you notice that you're always thinking about painting or you're always watching a YouTube video about painting, but you're never actually painting, don't feel called out, it's not targeted, then maybe you should start with some simple, clear goals. Because a lot of the time, it isn't that our brains are broken. It's just that we are reluctant to set real goals for ourselves because that just kind of puts a hitch in it. It doesn't feel as free or it doesn't feel as fun or whatever. But if that's what we need to do to paint a miniature, or at least to sit down so that we can get started, try it. Like, say I'm just going to sit down and paint the hair tonight. Like, make it a really low bar. Really low. Like, base coating the hair, putting a highlight on it, that's going to take you, 15 minutes? Maybe half an hour at most if you're really slow. Yeah, so set a really low bar. You can even go, I'm just going to base coat the hair tonight. Just get yourself into those one-step things and then see if that works for you. Likewise, some of us are very spontaneous. We don't really like regimentation. We want our hobby to just feel like, boom, like we can sit down and do it at any point. If you know that that's what you tend to do, then the answer is you need to set up a painting area that you can just sit down whenever the mood takes you. And you can do a little bit of work. You keep your current model and maybe a backup model on there. You keep a selection of colors that could apply to either of those. You got your brushes, your water. And if you don't have a table, especially if you're living at home or you're living with somebody else and you can't just leave a painting spot out, or you have cats or dogs or something that's going to get in the way, then one way I found to get around that is actually to get one of those plastic lunch trays. You know the ones, they're about like rectangle, about like that. Get one of those and load your stuff onto it. Clear space in a shelf in your closet or somewhere around you where you can just slide it in on an existing bookshelf. And then whenever the mood takes you, you've got all your stuff on that tray. You fill up your water, you sit down, you can start painting. You've got your palette, your brushes, your mini, the colors you were using. That can be a great way to work around the whole I don't have space to leave a painting area set up. Okay, so I don't want this thank you video to get too crazy, but I got one more thing to share, and it's something I brought up on my stream this morning. Don't feel called out. The whole world feels called out by this, I know. But there's no silver bullet. There is no video that is going to make you amazing out the gate. There's no video that's going to answer everything for you. Miniature painting and any other hobby where you have to get into it with your hands, with your hands, your eyes, your coordination and everything, doing it is the only way you progress. So honestly, if people spend as much time painting as they do thinking about painting or watching YouTube about painting or talking to their friends about painting, they would get a lot more done. So please don't feel called out. I'm saying this with all the gentleness and like total sympathy, like, because I was that person. But yes, sadly, the answer is that no matter how much your brilliant painter friend talks to you and explains what they do, it's never going to be a substitute for you just sitting down and working out this stuff on your own. I know it gets lonely, and that's why we have like painter friends, right? Try to understand too, just don't put too much weight on it. Like, sit down and think, I'm just going to play around. Because a lot of it, especially if it's important to us, if we really love the hobby, if we love miniatures, if we're like, this is my new thing, it can get really big in our head. And that can kind of stop us because we're afraid. We're like, if I try this and I'm not really good at it, what's going to happen then? I spent all this money, or I really want this, things like that. It can be like that. So try to just tell yourself, I'm just going to try it. This is just me playing. I'm just finding out. I'm just on an exploration mission to relax with my hobby. Like, if you can put a goal on it of just relaxing instead of actually getting anything done or doing anything of consequence, that's even better. Sometimes we just need that. Like, one of the best things about miniature painting is the zen, right? It's how relaxed we feel when we get in the zone and we're just concentrating on those little details. And that's what I wish for you guys. Like, that's what I hope that everybody gets out of miniature painting, is the zen zone, is that zone that takes us away from our stress and away from our anxiety, where we can just sit happily painting little scales on a tiny dragon and be happy for once, right? Just be chill. That's what I want for everyone. All right, everybody, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you so much again for all the subscribers. I'm really thrilled, and I can't wait to put up more videos for you, all right? Stay tuned. This is Anne signing off.